On this edition of Somerville Neighborhood News, how Narcan saves lives and gives overdose victims a second chance. We'll look into body cams and the local pilot programs that are testing the technology, and we'll visit some Somerville printmaking studios that are bringing new vibrancy to an ancient art.
Hello everyone and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. Today is October 6, 2015, and I'm Melanie Morris. Somerville Neighborhood News is your bi-monthly newscast and online source for multimedia news. It's a community service production of SCATV, created by staff, interns, and your neighbors. We bring you the news every 2 weeks on Channel 3 and on our website, somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. On September 14th, Somerville Overcoming Addiction held their second annual Candlelight Vigil. Here, they remembered those who lost their lives to opioid overdoses. At the event, the Somerville Fire Department and the Massachusetts AIDS Action Committee demonstrated the use of Narcan. Getting this potentially life-saving drug into the community can be the difference between life and death for an overdose victim. Our Karisma Desai reports.
Today, more overdose victims are being saved with Narcan, a drug that reverses the effects of an opioid overdose. Dr. Christopher Fisher from Somerville Hospital often treats overdose victims.
Opioids are strong pain medications, and that's their original intended use. But other examples of opioids are things like heroin, which is a non-medical opioid. So besides working on pain, the other effects of opioids are that it suppresses your respiratory drive, or your body's ability to breathe. So if you take opioids in too high an amount, then basically your brain tells the rest of your body to stop breathing. Narcan competes with those receptors and completely reverses the effects of the opioids.
It saved my life. Like I've overdosed plenty of times, and I've gotten Narcan by the paramedics, you know. Who knows if they didn't have that Narcan, if I would be standing here today, you know. It brought me back from the dead.
The introduction of fentanyl into the heroin, it's becoming a lot more potent, and a lot of kids and young adults are getting stuck into this kind of rut. But the Narcan's equipped on every fire truck in the city, as well as both chief cars, and as any firefighter that's on detail carries a dose of Narcan on him. We've used over 85 doses. So sometimes it's one dose on one person, sometimes it's two, but before April 2014, we had no doses, so we weren't able to use it on anybody.
Fire Lieutenant Michael Marino demonstrated injectable Narcan administration at the vigil.
That includes team empowerment and team challenge. Everybody come up.
If you are ready to use, pull off red safety guard.
So you would then pull this off.
One real quick, I'd like to give a great round of applause. My fellow members of Somerville Overcoming.
AIDS Action Committee was also there demonstrating the nasal spray. There is a push in the medical community to get Narcan to opioid users and concerned family members. In an overdose situation, time is of the essence.
Usually in Somerville, we're lucky that it's such a densely populated city. We're one of the densely populated cities in the country. Now we're right on scene within a minute and a half, just because of the locations of the fire stations in the city. We're really able to cut down the fatal overdoses in the city.
As of June 19th, 2014, all Somerville first responders have been carrying Narcan in their vehicles, and it has clearly been saving lives. But how can those that have overdosed on opioids translate that second chance at life into a new beginning?
Narcan fixes the effects of an acute opiate overdose. It doesn't fix anything about addiction. It doesn't fix anything about heroin addiction. So it resuscitates people. It makes them awake and alert. It changes things a little bit. When somebody comes in with a heroin overdose or an opiate overdose, the effects are you're barely breathing, you're unconscious. So to go from that to an awake, agitated, vomiting, withdrawing patient, it changes how you take care of them.
Like I felt myself going into the overdose, and Like when I woke up, I didn't know what happened. You know, I didn't know what happened until I had paramedics standing over me, my mother standing over me crying, you know, and it was scary, you know. So like the last overdose I had, I almost didn't make it back. And I realized I needed treatment. So when I woke up, I went to the hospital and I had a talk with one of my best friends, and they talked me into getting some treatment. And that's what I did, and I'm still sober till then. I got married, had kids, and I lost all that because of my addiction. I decided to use again, you know, after jail. And I caught a case and went back to jail, and I was at my bottom. One day I got a letter from my brother in jail, and it gave me a little hope. You know, he basically told me to hit my knees and pray every day and everything would get better. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I did, and everything and stuff started getting better slowly. You know, it doesn't they didn't build Rome overnight, so it takes a little while to build yourself back up.
Keith Laporta, who is now sober, is giving back to the community with his involvement in Somerville Overcoming Addiction, the organization that hosts the annual Candlelight Vigil where Narcan is provided.
This is the second year we're going to start on the grant for Narcan that we've gotten through the state. That's helped out a real lot. It's helped out with events like this and helped out with, you know, being able to distribute Narcan to the kind of general public, doing trainings.
This event here is like so we can remember those who had lost their lives to this disease, you know, and it's to help break the stigma as well, you know, like for those people that say, no, not my kid. Some people that used to be like that, some of their kids are on this slideshow, you know, some of their names are being read tonight.
For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Karisma Desai.
Of course, the hard work of beating opioid addiction comes after Narcan. There are several resources in the Somerville area for those battling opioid addiction and for their families. Cambridge Health Alliance Outpatient Addiction Service, challiance.org. You can reach them at 617-591-6051. Then there's the Somerville Trauma Response Network, somervillema.gov. You can reach them at 857-221-0942. And lastly, Families Anonymous Support Group, familiesanonymous.org. You can reach them at 781-727-1803. Tactical urbanism was a topic of discussion on Winter Hill last week. The name refers to short-term, low-cost improvements that begin to transform a city's streetscape. It all begins with community members brainstorming and a little elbow grease. Our Brendan Donahue brings us more.
About 50 residents recently took part in a meeting in the shell of a new Winter Hill business to share ideas and brainstorm a vision for the future of Broadway. The city of Somerville brought in a Better Block to help guide community discussion and take concrete steps.
Better Block's a urban planning firm. We just use temporary interventions instead of public meetings, and we work with the community to build out what a space could look like in the future.
Talking about walkability and why it's good to have bicycles and transit access.
Infrastructure changes take time. Build a Better Block helps communities make temporary changes that can add to quality of life now and set the stage for long-term improvements.
This project doesn't happen without community and partners, and that's what I saw tonight was a lot of people saying, yeah, we'll give some time to do this and we're ready for it. So it's good ingredients. And you've got the other key one is the city, and they're on board. They're going to let you kind of bend some rules. And then you've got a great private property owner here that wants something to happen. So you've got all the ingredients to have a great project.
The meeting was hosted at the new home of Winter Hill Brewing Company, which owners hope will bring new life to the neighborhood.
You are standing in what's going to be Winter Hill Brewing Company, which is a brew pub with a fully functioning restaurant, brew our own beer on site, only serve our own beer that we brew. And in the mornings, we are a fully functioning cafe. I mean, we wanted to provide a space for the community. The community had asked before about having either community meetings or basically anything that we could, in the interim of us doing our build out, because there's no space to really use, so we're all about it. So yeah, plus Better Block's cool.
The brainstorming session produced concepts that include turning parking lots into safe public plazas for skateboarders and park goers, and even installing temporary ice skating rinks in the winter. Residents also voiced a desire for more outdoor dining and other incentives that encourage residents to stop and spend time on the sidewalks of Winter Hill. Better Block has a history of community development in Somerville.
We first worked here on Union Square, demonstrating what Somerville Avenue could look like in the future. It's actually going to be built out sometime before the fall ends here. And yeah, I did a fellowship at Harvard and started an office here now, so I'm coming back pretty often.
As part of the meeting, residents and Better Block representatives took to the streets to identify areas that could be home to temporary improvements planned for November or early December. The weekend event would include pop-up spaces for families, business owners, and artists to show what the future could look like for Winter Hill. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Brendan Donahue.
The Winter Hill Brewing Company is located at 328 Broadway. They plan to be open this winter, just as the first pop-up venues appear around the neighborhood. Police body cameras are getting a lot of attention these days. Many Massachusetts cities and towns, including Somerville, are taking steps to add body cams to their policing strategy. The technology requires the development of policy, protocols, and, of course, police training. Our Ellie Romano reports.
Recently, police departments across the country have come under fire for controversial policing tactics. Incidents involving police are at the forefront of the public eye, with cases like the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson and the death of Eric Gardner from a police chokehold. Events like these have sparked movements against police brutality, especially from the campaign of Black Lives Matter. The implementation of police body cameras could decrease controversy surrounding the badge. Somerville Mayor Joseph Curtatone has been vocal in his support for police body cameras here in the city.
Chief David Fallon's on board. We're on board and we believe in the utilization of this technology because it offers greater transparency to the public, for ourselves, and greater protections for the public and for our police officers.
The use of body cameras not only offers a new transparency to policing, but also provides a clear account of all police interactions.
We have a greater understanding and visibility and evidence of what occurs in a particular event, incident, traffic stop, or public emergency scene. There's a lot of skepticism of public safety officials, public institutions today. We're real proud of the rank and file in our police department. We have an incredibly progressive police department. Police Chief Dave Fallon is leading that charge. But this offers another level of transparency and accountability that the public really deserves.
New technology, like police body cameras, has the potential to infringe upon privacy rights of Americans. Mayor Curtatone has been working with the American Civil Liberties Union to make sure the public civil liberties are not forgotten.
So here in Massachusetts, the ACLU of Massachusetts' position is that police body-worn cameras, if implemented with the right policies, can lead to safety, security, and transparency, really on both sides of the badge.
The ACLU thinks body cameras should be turned off in certain situations. For instance, talking to a victim, when entering someone's home, and when speaking with someone providing a confidential tip to the police.
We don't want that information to be recorded and kept forever. There should be deletion policies to say, you know, if we don't need this information, we're going to get rid of it. Because if you collect this amount of data, you can use it for more surveillance state types of things, and that's not what we're asking for. It's not what we're looking for. We also think it's not something that privacy-minded and civil liberties-minded people want to see in society.
The Methuen Police Department just finished a 90-day pilot program with body cameras, and Chief Joe Solomon understands the ACLU's concerns for how long footage should be kept for.
From our readings of what the ACLU is looking at is 30 days. Most officer complaints are 45 to 90 days, so we're feeling 90 days is a reasonable amount of time. I'd hate to have video and get rid of it and not be able to show the person what they thought wasn't accurate, or what they said was accurate, and we're missing the videos.
Those concerns aside, Chief Solomon received nothing but great reviews on the new technology.
We were very happy with the results of the test pilot program that we did. We weren't sure going into it how the reception by the officers would be or how the reception by the citizens were. And as we worked through the pilot program and then we actually did a survey online, we found overwhelming majority of people that were in favor of it.
Now that the pilot program is over, the Methuen Police Department is taking strides to make body cameras a permanent addition to their division.
The goal of the body camera is, people think it's a panacea, and it isn't. It's just one more tool that we have, no different than our weapon or our nightstick or our pepper spray or our verbal skills. It's one more tool that we can use and we can have, at our disposal.
Methuen is one of a handful of cities and towns with pilot programs in place. The Essex County Sheriff's Department has been using body cameras for 3 years and works closely with Methuen.
There was a learning curve at the beginning. It's just a matter of remembering to activate it, in any high-stress situations. They're a great tool. I mean, we're being, everybody knows that we're being audio and video recorded with cell phones and stuff like that. So at least now it gives our perspective on, why we did what we did and, in the situation that happened.
Mayor Curtatone and Chief Fallon also talked with departments who have used body cameras to learn how to properly institute the technology.
We are learning more about those municipalities or counties or districts or states that have implemented this technology, and we're going to continue to learn more so we can understand what mistakes have been made and learn from that. We're committed to using them because the benefits to protect people's rights and civil liberties, to offer the greatest transparency for the public, for our offices, are so overwhelming that it makes more than absolute sense that we must pursue this new technology.
Mayor Curtatone is currently in the process of collectively bargaining police body cameras. He hopes to have them installed in about a year. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Ellie Romano.
Somerville Representative Denise Provost has introduced a bill in the Massachusetts House that would support local departments in setting up protocols and initiate the use of police body cameras around the state. The bill is currently awaiting a hearing in the Joint Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. Now, let's see what's in this week's Somerville Journal.
Hello, in this week's Somerville Journal, we'll have coverage of the Haitian and Brazilian Festival. We'll take a look at the latest on the possible plastic bag ban, and we'll look at how city officials are trying to make sure that planes flying overhead don't wake up city residents. You can always catch us online at somerville.wickedlocal.com, follow us on Twitter at VilleJournal, and you can reach me at 617-629-3385 or datkinson@wickedlocal.com.
Printmaking is one of the world's oldest arts, and today's printmaking techniques may be some of the least understood. Our reporter Kelly Thomas visited 2 Somerville printmaking studios that are bringing artists together and keeping the process vibrant.
Somerville is home to many artists, and among them are printmakers. While painters and sculptors can work on their own, printmakers need a variety of materials and hardware. That's why open studios like the Mixed Print Studios in Davis Square are essential for them. Mixed Print Studio welcomes local artists looking for both studio space and access to a press. Jane Goldman is one of the owners of the Mixed Print Studio. She's a painter, a printmaker, and a public artist.
Mixed Print Studio opened its doors in 1987, and we serve the greater Boston printmaking community. It's really for artists who know how to work independently in our studio, and we have a range of people from just having graduated art school to some of the most well-known artists in our part of the country. So we have a wide range of people here.
Joel Janovitz is a local artist working at the Mixed Print Studio.
I've been coming here for 19 years. I come once a week and I do my printmaking. It's a great resource for many artists. It's reasonable, it's clean, it's beautifully taken care of, and it's one of my pleasures of the week to come here each week.
The day I met Janovitz, he was printing a monotype. A monotype can only be printed one time. It's a unique piece of art. Janovitz represents a living tree protected from heavy machinery by a barricade of dead trees. He said it was a metaphor for a time where the environment is under a lot of stress.
Putting the image down and taking away, wiping away until I get an image the way I like it. Then it goes through the press and the image is reversed, and there are always many surprises along the way because things happen in this process that are unpredictable by nature.
Printmaking is an ancient art. Mixit Studio co-owner Catherine Kernan gave us some background.
Actually, you could consider some of the cave art to be printmaking because they put their hand up and made a mark with their hand and pressed it into the walls, or they sprayed pigment using their hand as a stencil, and that's a printmaking process that we still use today. And then, of course, there were the Assyrian and Babylonian and Egyptian seals, where they would carve a roller, a little cylinder, and impress it into clay, and that's a form of printmaking as well. And then there were many examples of early woodcuts, which is probably the oldest of the printmaking processes that's still in use today. Eventually that became movable type with Gutenberg, became books, and they used a lot of woodcuts for illustrating books. That was the commonest way to illustrate books, to make cards that people would get when they'd visit holy sites. So it was always a form of disseminating information, making multiples and disseminating information to a wide audience. That was its initial use. These days we have many more ways of doing that more effectively, so fine art printmaking has really taken over from reproductive printmaking.
Karen recently finished a series of woodcut monoprints. She feels the unpredictability of the process adds to the artistic outcome. At the Mixit Print Studio, their 19th century press itself is a work of art.
That print was done by Warrington Colescott, and the subject is Aldo and Piero Cromelink, who were world-famous printers who printed for Picasso. I have that print because at the time I was visiting Warrington, and I had the money and I wanted to own a piece of his. So I said, Warrington, it's time, I need a print of yours, and he showed me this one. It happens that I had just purchased the Ladoy press that came from Aldo Cromelink in Paris. So I had the press from Aldo Cromelink, and Warrington had just done a print about Aldo Cromelink, and the two came together, and I just knew I had to have that print. And I leave it down here as an inspiration to people who are working on that press.
Kernan said the city of Somerville always welcomed the artists, which helped them to open the Mixit Print Studio.
Somerville has been a terrific home for so many artists, and we certainly wouldn't have this beautiful studio unless the policies of Somerville had allowed us to move here at a time when Boston did not allow live-work spaces and Cambridge did not allow live-work spaces. So it was very far-sighted of Somerville to encourage that kind of possibility for artists to own their own studios and live and work in the same building.
The Muscat Studio is another Somerville printmaking studio, specializing in the making of lithographs. Unlike monotypes, lithographs are a series of the same print. Carolyn Muscat, the studio owner, told us more about it.
It's based on two things not willingly getting along. In this case, grease and water. You create your image with usually a grease or wax-based substance. You then treat the surface with a mildly acidic solution that makes all of your non-image areas water-loving. When you're ready to print, you sponge the surface with water, just like you're wiping down a countertop, just to dampen it, and then roll on it with an oil-based ink. The water rejects the ink only goes right where you had image. You do that a few times, you lay a piece of paper, you run it through a press like these, where you have a bar that just applies flat, even pressure, and the ink will transfer to your paper, and then you get to do it again.
Both Muscat and Mixit Print Studio will participate into the Somerville Open Studio next May. During this annual event, artists will open their workspaces to the public. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Kelly Thomas.
Carolyn Muscat shares her printmaking experience across international borders. She's taught printmaking in Hanoi, Vietnam for the last 5 years and has built relationships with local artists there. She says her trips to Vietnam serve as artistic inspiration every single day. Somerville nonprofits work tirelessly, often with little recognition, to serve the city residents. Over the next 2 months, Giving Tuesdays brings the nonprofit community together to support each other and get the word out. We're here to help, and we can use your help.
What we have decided to do is to make an 8-week celebration of nonprofits in Somerville. So there are 14 participating organizations, including the Armory, where we are seated now. And each nonprofit is tasked with really sharing information about all of the other nonprofit organizations. And over 8 weeks, we'll be highlighting different 2 organizations every week.
We were so fortunate to have these folks that got together to create the Homeless Coalition give us such an incredible foundation to build from. They really instilled this philosophy of being a community, of creating a community, of taking care of people who are having a hard time taking care of themselves.
We are a nonprofit based in Somerville, and we are dedicated to strengthening the local economy and encouraging people to shop local and localize their purchasing power. We have about 245 members, and that includes retail businesses like the bookshop. It includes service and creators, people, single proprietors working from home, building websites, restaurants, bars. We have a lot of creative culinary businesses in Somerville.
Second Chances is a local clothing donation program, and we provide free clothing, shoes, accessories, and gift cards to homeless and low-income people in Somerville and Cambridge. Since 2005, we've served more than 2,500 people in our community, and we've recycled or reused more than 700,000 pounds of clothing.
And so the way that the campaign works is all of the funds are pooled together and we split them evenly amongst the 14. We decided that if everybody puts in the same amount of work, no matter how big of an organization you are, then every organization gets an equal amount of the funding. So $50,000 would be a really big boost to even the biggest of the nonprofits. So we're really excited for that. And then for giving, we have an online platform which will be up soon. It's on the Giving Commons, which is through the Boston Foundation. And people can give there throughout the whole 8 weeks. And they can also send paper checks to Groundwork Somerville, which is our fiscal sponsor for the 8-week celebration. And then on December 1st, we'll end here at the Armory with a big event.
Somerville Neighborhood News will continue to profile Giving Tuesdays nonprofits through the end of November. The Alderman's Chamber was full of supporters and well-wishers last week when former SCAT Executive Director Wendy Blum was recognized for her 11 years of leadership here at the station. City and state officials presented Ms. Blum with citations and proclamations.
I think SCAT is just a model of promoting diversity and activity and civic engagement. And it's a model that is really rare. I know that diversity doesn't come easy. It takes work. And that is what you have done over your tenure. And I'm just so happy that you've been here, and I'm sorry you're leaving. This is just a little token from us. Thank you so much.
We here at SCATV join those voices in thanking Wendy for her leadership and wish her the best as she takes on new challenges. That's our newscast for tonight, folks. We'll be back on October 20th at 7 p.m. on Channel 3. In the meantime, check out our news stories at somervilleneighborhoodnews.org. Also visit our Facebook page, SCATV SNN, to comment and share your favorite segments. Tweet us at SCATV SNN. We welcome you to get involved, become a reporter, or just share your story ideas. Call us at 617-628-8826 or email us at news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Melanie Morris. Thanks for joining us tonight. Join me on Bay State Biking News Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. on Channel 3, or of course anytime on scatvsomerville.org. We'll see you around the neighborhood.